Welcome back to the Schmitters Hunter Acre Woods. Today we're going to go through the process of making a roof for the otter. So here we have a piece of 1/8 inch steel. We decided that we're going to make one because we transport this so much. A lot of the roofs aren't rated for trailer travel. So here we're going to make one. So to begin with, we ended up measuring it out and getting it cut. So there's a small bend on the otter's roof, so we had to accommodate that. So this is using a circular saw with metal to cut these out. It makes a clean edge so that there's very little work that needs to be done to clean up the cut afterwards. Here we're cutting both the sides out to get it down to size. So once we get the width cut down to size so that it will fit on top of the otter, we know that we want to put a small curve on the front of it. So here we're trying to kind of come up with a couple different ways to potentially do that. We weren't sure with this 1/8 inch steel how easy we'd be able to bend it. So we started by taking some wood clamps, clamping it on and trying to bend it. And that didn't work. We took a small piece of pipe that we had laying around and trying to bend it around that. And we found that that wasn't going to work either. So after that we took measurements and came up with a few different sizes where we're going to cut the piece of metal in these lengths shown here, so we could then weld them together in the bend. So here we're cutting those pieces off the front so that we can then reattach them at the different angles needed to come up with the curve on the front of the otter. On the piece of metal, we're using a guide to help cut the pieces out as straight as possible. So here we're just clamping that on, accommodating for the rip bends of the saw, and then running that along the saw so that we can have straight cuts along. So once we get all these pieces cut out, we then went back inside and put the roof on the otter and got the 2 bolts at the top measured. Here we're drilling out the holes for those 2 bolts so that we can mount this big sheet on top. Then carried that piece of steel back inside, put it on the roof of the otter, and made sure that those would fit. Once we're happy with that fitment, we back the otter outside and start doing some welding on the different angles. We get them tacked on, as you can see here. To start with, so we just started with the top piece, have a few tacks. These tacks are just to help hold the piece along the edge so that there isn't a gap or anything as we go along. Yes, we're just using the piece of plywood on the bottom as a way to help make sure that none of the sparks from the weld end up melting into the otter. Here we've taken the second piece and kind of figured out the angle along the side and putting some tacks along this as well, just to get it to hold in place. Once we're happy with the placement of all of those, this is going along and putting welds on all of those pieces along the front. So after it was tacked, just doing welds across, making sure to alternate where the weld is and on which piece, kind of working back and forth. This helps dissipate the heat so you don't have all the heat in one spot and then bring it back or cause the metal to twist. Here we've welded on the back piece, so this will sandwich in the back, and it bowed in a little bit, so I had to bend it back out. And then we need to put a little bit of a curve on the front to open it up. So here, trying to use some clamps to open that up a little bit. So when we put that on top, we found that we still didn't have enough to be able to bend it out. So that's why you see the extra pieces of square tubing on there, is to help create spots as leverage to bend that piece of metal out. And then you can see the pieces on the bottom there are another point to mount the roof. This is then just finishing those welds on the pieces that are the front mounts to bolt holes that are there along the side. Just doing the finished weld on these. We tacked them on the Otter just so that it was for sure in the right spot, and then going through and just finishing these welds up. Here's just using a punch to make sure we have all the holes accurate for the back where it will mount along the mesh, and then just drilling out those holes with the pilot hole first, and then switching up to around a 1/2 inch drill bit to finish out the hole. So we ran out of daylight that day, so here's just a couple of pictures to show kind of the finalized product with taking the braces off. You can see here we had to weld a piece of angle iron across the front just so that it would help hold it because it wanted to bend. So thank you for watching this winter's 100 Acre Woods. Join us again as we finish up this roof and get it painted.